What's up, everybody? Grind Shine Recovery. I'm here with a special guest today, the Real Young Swagg. What's up, brother? I've listened to a lot of your music. I hear a lot of your story and recovery in that. So, how did you get into the life? I guess is where I want to start off with you, man.
Yeah, dude. No problem. So basically what started off like my using and the bad path that I went down started real early. I was doing drugs like smoking weed and popping a couple pills here and there when I was like 13, 14 years old with my older brother. And one night I had been doing a certain drug and I felt really really up. You know what I mean? I was so energized. I had done some cocaine and I was really young and I didn't know how to calm down. And my brother introduced me to Oxycontin. And that was the moment. That's when everything started. As soon as I put it in my body, I was probably 14 years old. And I knew right then and there, I felt like God had put me on this planet to use that drug. I was instantly in love.
That's so yeah. It's so funny you say that because I remember telling people it was a miracle drug when I had an injury
Yep.
and first tried it. So I guess
Yep.
what led up? Like, did you know? I guess what led up to where like did life get pretty down and unbearable? I mean, at any point from your use.
Oh, dude, my life was shitty. My life was crappy. You know what I mean? So after using at about 14, I kept going. I kept going. I found heroin really fast because it was so accessible. And I was in Massachusetts area at the time. And I, by about 16, I wasn't allowed to go near my parents' house. And I was basically kicked out and getting arrested for little things here and there. And when I turned 17, I broke into a bunch of cars while I was high and blacked out on benzodiazepam. And I got arrested at 17 for burglary and went straight to prison.
Man. So you got a prison number then from all that.
Yeah, I did 18 months for that, and all you needed was a year down there. But then I just got more time added on. You know what I mean? I kept doing stuff in jail. I was getting in fights. I was hanging out with gang members, trying to be cool, and learning how to use drugs even worse. I never got better in jail.
Yeah,
it didn't help.
Getting your PhD while you're in there, you know, in criminology, huh?
Exactly, man. I walked out way worse, and I used until I was about that close to death, and I was living in the woods, sleeping on the ground in Newfield, Maine. And
is that way? I heard you rap one point about flying a sign, and I related to it because I had been there at some points, you know. So you were homeless, you know, really living on the streets, you know.
Oh, it sucked, dude. It was probably the worst part of my addiction was once I had nowhere to go.
Yeah,
can't blame anybody. You know, I couldn't blame anybody.
Yeah, we burn all our bridges that we do have, you know. So what was the point that you were like, man, I got to do something different. I got to change because I mean, you're doing pretty good for yourself now with your music and what you're doing.
Yeah, I got what happened was I went into rehab, in and out of my drugs, you know what I mean, and using. I had touched down in a rehab once, trying to hold on to whatever relationships with my family I had left, and I got kicked out quick. And the funny thing is I actually honestly didn't do anything wrong. They just couldn't tell if the medication in my system was still from detox or if I had used in rehab. So they were like, we got to let you go. So I don't blame. It was an accidental like fluke in the system, but I took my hit and I got kicked out of rehab. But in those 30 days I was in rehab, I got a taste. I was like, this is cool. Like, I am sober. This is the best feeling in my life. So then I went back out when I got kicked out and I started using drugs again, meth and dope. And I was back in the woods instantly. So I was like, weighing my options. And I was out in the woods in a tent. I was like, you know, recovery is pretty good. They gave me a bed. They gave me food.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure. It definitely beats the woods, you know.
Yes, it does, man. So I just was like, what do I got to lose? I looked around at my tent one day with all the burn holes in my tent. Winter was coming. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to sleep somewhere warm. And if it works, it works.
Well, heck yeah, man.
And luckily,
So that was the turning point, huh? That got you kind of into recovery and everything. And why don't you tell people what you're doing now and you know how your life is now? I mean, from living in a tent to what you're doing now.
now it's pretty freaking cool, dude. Like, actually, I'm sitting in my own house right now. This is a backdrop that I'm allowed to put on my wall because it's my wall. In rehab, you can't put this many posters up on your wall. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I got a beautiful life. I got a beautiful fiance. We got a little kitty. I got a whole bunch of kids, which is another crazy story all on its own.
Yeah.
Like everything I ever wanted, I have, but like also, like I don't screw up the world around me anymore. Like I'm a pretty decent person. I started believing in something and in myself, and now, like you see, my music has turned into a little kid rapping behind a microphone to like an actual thing, like an actual substantial like business behind me. I'm an established artist now. People know who I am.
Yeah, and your music is awesome, man. The way you I could really relate to stuff you were saying, you know, like the flying when you were rapping about flying the sign and different things like that. I like that you keep it real, you know what I mean? You know, because some people don't like to share their addiction and that stuff. And I believe the only way to help people see that there's a brighter side to it is to share what we went through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, that's what's cool is once my music really started getting noticed, it started doing, baby, will you throw me that back? I was talking to my girlfriend at the same time.
Oh, you're good.
When I really started writing the real stuff down, people, first off, they started really listening. When I started writing what was inside, people were like, whoa, I like that. And then I started getting a lot of fans, and now they're all messaging me like, dude, your music is saving my life. And I'm like, dude, it's saving mine too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, well, and that's one thing that's awesome that you're doing that and putting your life and your recovery, all that in your music, because to me, man, I listen to certain rap and it takes me back. You know what I mean? It kind of puts me in that mindset. You know what I'm saying? But I could put something like yours on, and you know what I mean? It don't put, you know what I mean? It makes me grateful for where I'm at today. And it makes, you know what I mean? Music's a big thing to motivate people. You know what I mean?
It's like the way I try and describe music to my girl sometimes, because she's like a music lover as well, is like music is like such an energy. And if you're putting in a negative energy, you're going to reap negative results. You know what I mean? If you're listening to the music about the money, the drugs, the gang life, and the party and all that, you're eventually going to start thinking about that all the time. And then it influences your insides. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you definitely gravitate towards that for sure.
Yeah.
No,
I have
go ahead.
Who believes that. I got a really great friend who like believes so strong on that. And when I was in rehab, I was still listening to all that gangster rap, trying to write it. And he's like, no, dude, get that crap out of your life. He's like, do you think God believes in that music? I'm like, probably not.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, for sure. And why don't you go ahead and tell everybody your page? You could share about your faith, man. Faith was a big part of my recovery that helped me along the way. And I believe that higher power, you got to have that to believe in some, you know, you got to live for something greater than yourself. You know what I mean?
Then it like right sizes you. I love God and I like Jesus, and I'm not much of a Bible thumper like I used to be, but I do believe in it. And I believe in him, but like, it's just something. You got to get something, because then it sets you lower than something and it humbles you. It's like, all right, so there is something bigger than me. So I'm this small. Okay, I'm humbled now. And humility never killed nobody.
For sure. For sure. Well, and we're used to living such a hedonistic lifestyle. When we're out using, it's about that moment. Everything's about the moment. So like, that's one reason I do believe in the higher power part of recovery is you, like you said, you got to be living for something bigger than yourself. What would you tell anybody out there still suffering, man, still struggling, you know, like where you were?
Like, for people who are still out there struggling, when I was like dying, I felt like I was dying in my tent. I didn't feel like anybody really cared. You know what I mean? I didn't really feel like anyone cared. I felt all alone. But no matter what, all right, you're not alone. You're never alone.
For sure.
So you if you're sitting there and you're hurting and you're dying and you just feel like no one cares, like, there's a lot of us out here that really give a shit whether you live or die. And we care if you make it or if you don't. So if you want help, call anybody, because we care. All of us can.
Yeah, for sure. I always
even
tell
if it's
people,
a family.
Yeah, no, I always tell people, get at me in the comment any way possible. You know, if you need somebody to talk to, reach out, because you know, that's a big thing, is you got to take that step to make them new relationships, because a lot of us only have toxic relationships. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, it's so hard. And I know, you know, like, it's so hard to just pick up that phone and be like, dude, I am all fucked up in my head. I cannot stop using, even though I want to stop using. Like, I know what it's like to use against your own mind. Your mind's saying, dude, stop, you're gonna die. And you're like, no, I need it. Like,
yeah, it's funny. I remember the exact moment when I was really hooked on Oxycontin, and I remember thinking, you got to stop. It was like the first 6 months of using them, or, you know, first few months. And I remember picking up the phone, searching for them, and it hit me like, oh, you're a dope fiend. You're really need this now. And I was like, you better stop now. But even though I was thinking that, I'm still dialing the phone. You know what I mean? So, you know, thank God 10 years later, I got put in a place to where I can get my life together. So I appreciate you so much for coming on, man. What's your YouTube page? Share your social stuff on here, and I'll put a link.
All right, cool. So everything is all under the Real Young Swagg, like my name right here on the chat, guys. And you can always like message me too. Like, I try and get back to people as much as possible, but I'm always crazy busy, as you know now.
Yeah, no, but you were good about getting back to me, man, and I appreciate that. You don't have a big head. You're humble, and I respect that a lot, man.
I figured you were a good guy, and I was like, maybe I'll message him back. And then it turns out you were a good guy, so I was like, all right, let's do this. You know?
Yeah. Shout out to Main Man too. He's the one who plugged me into you, man. He's good people. Yeah, he is good people, man, for sure.
Yeah, check him out on YouTube, guys. If you don't yet, he talks about my music, so then you'll find me too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for your time, brother. You have a good day, and keep cranking that music out, man.
Thank you. I got a new one coming. We just shot the video, so keep your eyes open.
I'll be watching for it, dog. Stay up, man.
All right, man.
Stay sober.
You too, brother. Yes, you too.
All right.
All right, peace.
Yeah, peace, brother. Good deal.